Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. This is my first video of 2025. I know I am a little bit late and I apologise. However, I have been quite busy with work and haven't had a lot of free time. Also, there hasn't been a lot to talk about in regards to War of the Worlds. So each video I've made has been quite spaced out in between. I apologise. I wanted to also make a massive thank you to all of you for getting the channel to 10,000 subscribers. We hit that milestone just before Christmas. So thank you all so much. This was a huge milestone for me. And now we've just got to keep on building and expanding the channel into new areas and keep growing the community. If you'd like to be a part of that, then feel free to subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And if you want to talk to me directly, then you feel free to hop onto my Discord server. I'm always available to talk to on there if you need to get hold of me. The link is in the description. Anyways, back on topic. So we do have some news, albeit not a lot. So I thought I'd like to talk about where things are with War of the Worlds by FlipSwitch Games. So in my last video, I talked about what's going on with the development since it's been a while, and I talked about how Raf was probably gearing up for recording the next development update, and I got a couple of other bits of information slightly wrong in that video, but overall I wasn't far off. But since then, there's been more information that has come to light, and I wanted to mention all of that just to make sure that as many people are as aware as possible, basically. So just before the end of January, Raf made a Discord announcement talking about the state of the game, and it reads as follows. So here we go, 20th of January this year. As some of you may know, I began my first week in the New York City Fire Academy last week. Becoming an NYC firefighter has been my lifelong dream and calling, and while I've delayed this step for 2 years now to focus on game development, this was my final opportunity to join before aging out, so obviously I couldn't let it pass. Now obviously there's got to be some sort of age limit to joining the firefighters. I can understand why he's had to join at this point, because if this is one of those things you've always wanted to do, or at least try, and he's got an age limit that he can join at, and he's obviously getting close to that, I can completely understand why he wanted to go into that. Because when I did a interview with him a couple of years back, he talked about how he was delaying starting in the Fire Academy so he could finish the game first. Obviously, maybe at the time he wasn't aware of how long the game was going to take to make. I think since then he's updated or changed the engine and things like that. He's done some huge changes that he never probably expected to do during the development. So it's taken longer than he thought. And obviously he's reached an ultimatum where he thought either I finish the game but never join the firefighters, or I go into it and then just finish the game later. And he's chose what I would say is probably the best option for him. Maybe not for some people that want the game to come out, but I can respect his decision, so yeah. But anyways, carrying on. What does this mean for development? While progress won't be as fast as it was this time last year, I want to assure you that development is still ongoing. As the only developer working on this game, I'm still dedicating my limited free time during the weekdays and using weekends to continue pushing things forward. Once I graduate from the academy, I'll be able to return to a full regular development schedule. So he's interesting. He says that he's the only developer working on the game. I do believe he's like the main person actually doing like the coding and things like that, but we know obviously that he's got people to do sound and some of the tripod designs and some of the artwork and things like that. But that's like side stuff, that's auxiliary development parts. So I do believe he is still the only person working directly on the game. But yeah, it makes sense. Again, we don't really know how long this academy is. I'm sure if you Google it, it'd come up with saying how long it takes to get through the academy, but I can't imagine it takes too long. Regarding the $75 to $50 price drop for closed testing access, while I initially planned to make this change soon, I've decided to hold off a bit longer. While many may be disappointed with the news, the game isn't quite ready for the huge influx of new testers yet, as there are still optimizations to be made and crashes to resolve. I want to make sure that the experience is as polished as possible before opening it up further, and as difficult as a decision as it is to delay the price drop for you guys, I have to be honest with myself and you guys about the current state of the game. So yeah, that was something I also talked about in my last video. I talked about the price drop coming down. I don't know if I mentioned that it was at $75 already or not. I believe I may have done, but when I bought into the closed testing access a couple of years back, it was still $100, so it was quite a lot. The idea of that was to stop people that weren't actually interested in helping from just buying into it, and obviously he wanted to make sure that people didn't leak stuff. I'm sure people will leak stuff anyway, but the idea was that he wanted to make it so that people that were actually interested in helping with the development was the ones that would buy into it, and not because he was like greedy or anything like that. I'm sure some people saw it that way, but he's obviously trying to he's obviously already reduced it down to $75, which is a little bit more affordable. It's still kind of like the price of like a AAA game, which is, you know, for closed testing access, and it's just him working on it, and there's not really a lot of other funding. Kind of makes sense to still charge this much, and the fact that it's still under a non-disclosure agreement, so I can understand why it's still at 75. But again, makes sense to hold it there for now instead of dropping it to 50, because once you drop it to 50, a lot more people can afford it, and then you'll get a huge influx of people. There's not servers ready for it yet, and I thought about this in the last video. I said, like, when they released the initial clips of the multiplayer, it did still look a bit rough, so kind of makes sense that he's not done it yet, because it still needs some time, and obviously it's hard for him to do that when he's doing the Fire Academy. So there you go. On the topic of updates, I know it's been months since the last YouTube video, and I understand this might make it seem like progress has stalled. I've been in the middle of moving across the country and preparing for the extremely difficult weeks that lie ahead. However, closed testers and I have been running multiplayer test games on the latest build and gathering clips for the next update video. These updates and videos take time to make, and time is a resource I have much less of during the next 17 weeks. 17 weeks, there you go, that's how long the Fire Academy is. Damn, so that's like 4 or 5 months? That's a while. So we might not see any update now until summer. Anyways, let's carry on. That being said, I'm committed to continue making steady progress without rushing this critical stage of development. As you can imagine, being a solo developer on a project this size is a monumental task and responsibility. Thank you for understanding and continued support. Your patience and enthusiasm mean the world to me as I balance this exciting new chapter with my passion for game development. As always, you can track real-time progress of the game's development on our Trello. Link can be found in the resource links. In the meantime, to hold you over till the next video, here are a couple of screenshots from our closed testers on the latest test build. Thank you again in advance for your patience and understanding. But yeah, so that is where things are in terms of development. Now, there was a couple of things that I was correct about in terms of, like, he was going to bring down the price at the time that I made the video of the closed testing, and he was making a video for the multiplayer aspect, and that was around the time that I think he was basically just going to open it up so anyone can buy into it. I mean, the price of $50 does make it so most people can play the game. So I was kind of right on some things, but I was a bit off on other things. But at least now we know where we are in terms of the development. Now, I don't know how long it's going to take for the next video to come out or the drop in price for early access, but I think it's safe to say it's going to be a little while. So we need to be patient. I know we've been waiting a long time for this game, and I myself have put a fair amount of money into this, as I know other people have as well. So I get the frustration, but it is still coming. We just don't know when. We might be lucky and get a release this year, or we could be looking at release this time next year. Who knows? At this point, we don't know how close he was to releasing the multiplayer element of the game. I presume that if he's recording it, then that means he's fairly close. So hopefully around the summertime we should get the multiplayer aspect of the game, and the price should come down and we can all start making videos on the game. But that doesn't mean that the game's done. It just means that it's good enough for an early access release. So we could be looking at a finished release next year, early next year if we're lucky. In the meantime, it means that even if it's not done, we can still play it and we can still record it. So it's kind of like getting a release. Early access is kind of releasing it. So hopefully in the summer, fingers crossed, we'll see. It all depends on how the academy goes and how long it actually takes. I mean, he said 17 weeks, so I'm not going to do the maths on that, but I'm presuming it's around summertime, about 4 or 5 months. So hopefully, yeah, summertime, things will be good and we can resume as normal. But in the meantime, yeah, it's going to be rough waiting for new updates. But yeah, I just wanted to keep you guys up to date as there's been a lot of quiet in the community recently. As always, thoughts and opinions in the comments are always welcome. I do my best to read as many of them as I can, and do feel free to hop in my Discord server and message me directly. I'll try to reply as often as possible, but yeah, that's where we stand right now. It's a shame there isn't, you know, much alternative War of the Worlds content to fill our time between development updates, but that's why I am thinking of expanding the channel into potentially other types of sci-fi games and maybe even more stuff beyond that. But we'll see how that goes, just to keep pushing out fresh stuff, basically. It's all I want to do. But I will always be keeping up to date with War of the Worlds content. That stuff is going nowhere. It's still going to be my main thing as often as I can, but just because I want to keep the channel active as much as possible, and it's kind of hard to push out content when I feel kind of stuck to War of the Worlds. So I hope you guys will understand and still stick along for when I do other stuff as well. Like I said, I'm going to try and keep it primarily sci-fi and maybe go beyond that to other things that I'm interested in. You know, I'm into all sorts of games really. So, you know, I want to try and branch out a little bit more, especially since we've passed 10k subs now. I want to try and expand out rather than get stuck into just War of the Worlds too much. It's a bit too niche to be regular with uploads and keep things different and interesting all the time. So in order to keep things fresh, I do need to expand out. So hopefully you guys understand that and you'll come along. So yeah. But anyways, there's another update for you. I hope you found it helpful and informative. If you did, please do give this video a like, as it helps me out a lot with the YouTube algorithm and pushes this video out to more people. And subscribe if you haven't already. We've surpassed 10k subs now, so let's see if we can push to 15k or even 20k. That would be amazing. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you next time.